Hey folks, what's up? Welcome back. Another Genshin Impact video. And today let's talk a bit about the new bow, the Aqua Simulacra. I will never ever say that again. I lied. I will say that again. It sounds terrible. But the I don't know how to actually pronounce it, to be fair. If I were to guess, Aqua Simulacra? Please don't tell me it's actually Aqua Simulacra. That would be, that would sound terrible. Anyways, why didn't they just keep it as a Kieran bow? Whatever. Moving on. So, this bow, new 5-star bow, obviously coming up with the 5-star banner, right? And the dual Aqua Simulacra slash Primordial Jade Wing Spear banner, right? And this is generally a good bow for multiple reasons. If you look at you know, the kit and stuff, right? Why can't I make this thing bigger? Let's just open it. There we go. That's better. All right, so this bow is a 5-star bow, obviously. It has a crit damage for the substat, and yeah, obviously 88.2 crit damage and 542 base attack. So just looking at this first, there's a few things you'd immediately notice. First of all, that's a lot of crit damage. That is a lot of crit damage, right? That is a lot of crit damage. Okay. And obviously, as usually these things go, right? The higher the substat, the lower your base attack. The base attack is slightly atrocious. This base attack is so bad, right? I think there's multiple 4-star weapons that have like more base attack than the Aqua Simulacra, right? I'm pretty sure. The base should be what, 43, right? So like bows like where is that? Fading Twilight, you know, Moan's Moon. I don't know how to pronounce this one either, honestly. And you know, other stuff like Sack Bow has more, right? Attack. You have Black Cliff has more, Ally Hunter has more, right? So slightly embarrassing in the attack stat department, but again, the crit damage is unbeatable over here, right? The crit damage substat is incredibly high. I'm pretty sure that's the highest crit damage substat in the entire game, right? Tied with I think Redhorn, right? Redhorn also should be 88.2, right? In the crit damage department, 542 base attack, right? So there is that to consider. Again, very high crit damage. Fishing for crit, obviously very powerful. But if your unit, you know, relies on a lot of base attack, then, you know, maybe not as good. So in terms of the passive gives 20%, or not 20%, 16% HP over here. And then when there's opponents nearby, the damage dealt by the wielder of this weapon is increased by 20%. And this will take effect whether the character is on field or not, right? So obviously, as a bow designed for Yelan, they have to take in consideration Yelan's probably going to be off field for a lot of the time, right? So that does make sense. Anyways, so yeah, let's that being said, basically low base attack, high crit damage, gives you some HP buffs, and gives you extra damage dealt, right, when there's opponents nearby, and can be obviously off field as well. So let's look at the bow users in this game, and let's talk about some characters that probably would benefit using this, right, and maybe some that probably won't, right? Just in terms of, you know, if you're planning to pull on this bow, right, who should, you know, who could actually utilize it. So first of all, let's go from the top tier, right? Top tier is just best in slot tier. That's just her best weapon, straight up, right? And I accidentally said her because it is a her. It's Yelan, right? It's Yelan. It's made for Yelan, and it's perfect for Yelan in multiple ways, right? Obviously, crit damage substat is good for any damage dealer, right? For one, and then you have the extra HP increase. Yelan does scale off of HP percentage, right? The low base attack doesn't matter because again, Yelan stuff all scales off of HP percentage, and then after that you get that extra 20%, you know, damage increase for Yelan as well, which also applies off field, which again she will be off field quite a decent amount. So it's basically almost a perfect bow for Yelan, right? Very much a powerful bow for her, right? I guess if they really wanted to make it a bit even more, you know, crazier for Yelan, they could like give her a bit more energy recharge or something. But anyways, it's basically, you know, very, very, very good for Yelan. Again, it's made for her. A lot of weapons kind of have this sort of thing going for them, but not all signature weapons are, you know, each character's, you know, best in slot, like you know, Vortex Vanquisher and only sadly among others. Right? So yeah, regardless, it's definitely Yelan's best weapon by far, right? Well, I wouldn't say by far. It depends on what teams you are running her on, because in certain teams, if you really do lack the energy, because you really want Yelan's ult up as much as possible, right? So you might want to like pick up a bow with more like energy recharge or whatever, right? But again, in most case scenarios, it's you know, as long as you have enough energy recharge, this is going to be the best bow. All right, going to be the best bow damage wise, right? Pure damage wise. And yeah, you know, either you could you build her some energy recharge, or I guess you could run her in some, you know, some teams like a Raiden team or whatever, right? That could definitely help. So yeah, that's that. Moving on. As for let's go to the bottom of this list. And why not just use a hunter's bow instead? To be honest here, which, you know, means there really isn't much difference in terms of using the Aqua Simulacra, right, versus a hunter's bow. And in that tier, it's our guy Goro. Goro just straight up doesn't use this like at all. Like, nothing applies to Goro over here, right? Goro obviously being a support, it's not really there to deal damage. I know every unit in this game could deal damage if you really, really try hard enough and want them to be a DPS. But like, that aside, for most case scenarios, right, almost 9% case scenarios, Goro's not there to do damage. Goro's there to, you know, buff your Geo units, right? That, especially again, those who scale off of defense percentage. And speaking of that, right, Goro, the only stat, right, Goro really uses is like energy recharge and defense percentage, which both are not present on this bow, right? And again, not much of a damage dealer, so this extra damage doesn't really help. The HP doesn't really do I mean, well, it keeps them alive longer, which also applies to every single unit of the game. But like, you know, it's kind of whatever. He doesn't use HP percentage. He doesn't use base attack that much either, right? Again, yeah, you could do a bit more damage, like your initial, you know, the first thing, but again, it's not really, it doesn't really matter, right? Again, Goro, you just want stuff like, you know, Favonius, Sacrificial, stuff like that. Maybe LG for the extra energy recharge, because he's a support. He's a support. What can you do, right? He's a support. He wants energy recharge, and there really aren't any. Actually, are there any like 3-star defense percentage bows? I don't think so, right? I'm pretty sure there's like no defense percentage bows at all. Yeah, 0 defense per. However, please get us some defense percentage bows, some defense percentage pole arms, right? What are we doing? For our girl Yunjin there as well. But yeah, he basically useless. There's not much of a actual, you know, meaningful difference between using a hunter's bow on Goro versus Aqua Simulacra over here. So moving on, let's talk about some characters that actually do benefit from this quite a bit. Maybe it's not really their best weapon, right? Maybe it's not their best in slot one, but it's pretty damn close, you know. Could be the second best option or maybe third best option in terms of a bow, right? And there's quite a few because again, this bow is just a very good generalist bow because of the very, very high crit damage, right? And even though it's a relatively low base attack, it's still like a 5-star. Can I even say that? I can't even say that because there's multiple 4-stars out of more base attack. All right, whatever. Extra, you know, damage dealt increase, right? So for those, first of all, we do have Yoimiya. Again, it's not going to be most likely not going to be Yoimiya's best weapon because of the fact that Yoimiya just fits so well with Thundering Pulse, right? Thundering Pulse is just very, like Thundering Pulse is just fantastic for Yoimiya, straight up, right? Straight up. Again, Thundering Pulse being also a crit damage bow, right, and has much more base attack. Again, less crit damage, but more base attack, right? And then you also have the extra attack increase over here, and then depending on how many more stacks, increase your normal attack damage. And obviously, you know, Yoimiya being a normal attack damage user obviously helps a lot, right? And all the other stuff like Thundering Pulse is just very much the Yoimiya bow. But if you don't have, you know, Thundering Pulse, or if you pulled, you know, if you're trying to pull for Primordial Jade Wing Spear and then you pull the Aqua Simulacra and then you have the Yoimiya, don't have Thundering Pulse, this is a nice option. This is a nice option. You can level it up, put it on Yoimiya. It's probably one of our better options to have anyways, right? Just because, again, the crit damage, the extra damage dealt is nice. Again, slightly lower base attack, but, you know, she's pyro. She can still do a lot of damage, all right? Moving on. I guess another character that could actually, well, would be very, very good in one specific scenario would be Ganyu, right? So here's the thing with Ganyu. It's not gonna be like, obviously you're not gonna be Amos Bow, right? You're not gonna be Amos Bow in like melt teams, right? But if you're playing like freeze teams with Ganyu, right? If you are playing freeze teams with Ganyu, you know, right, where you don't really go for the charge attacks, you just like a lot of, you know, freeze quick swap Ganyu teams, right, where you just use your ult, right? In that case, the Aqua Simulacra could actually be pretty nice. The Aqua Simulacra, like, I'm pretty sure it should snapshot, right, with her Q. I'm not 100% sure, but we'll have to see once it comes out, I guess, right? But the one condition is you do have to be near your opponents. So you could just, you know, throw out your Venti ults, your whatever other ults first at the opponents, and then walk over to the opponents as Ganyu. Use your Q, and then you could just, you know, chill, right? You don't really have to be close to them for the entire duration. And again, being that you're probably going to be running some, you know, Blizzard Strayer, freeze Ganyu, right? The massive crit damage over here is definitely going to be very, very nice as well, right? So there's also that, right? So yeah, this should be a really nice bow for like a freeze Ganyu. In terms of, again, melt Ganyu, I don't think it's really going to be that close in terms of, you know, Aqua Simulacra versus Amos Bow. Amos Bow is just that good for like melt Ganyu, right? But it should be a solid option alongside Polar, you know, Thundering Pulse, etc. Maybe even Skyward Harp, whatever, right? But yeah, not so much for melt Ganyu, but for freeze Ganyu could definitely be very, very nice, right? So actually, probably for melt Ganyu, it probably would be solid if you are, you know, running some like shielder on your team. So again, you do have to get close to the enemies, which is the only thing, right? Which does make it. And this is just a weird bow, right? Speaking of that, this is kind of a weird bow if you think about it. Because bow users, right, the concept of a bow, it's like a long-range weapon to attack, you know, shoot, take out your enemies from afar, right? And like the one like passive condition is you have to be near your opponents. Again, there are characters who could definitely utilize that, right? So, you know, especially Yelan being off field, whatever. There's a few that you could get close to enemies. But I'm just saying it's kind of funny that they made a bow that makes you want to be close to your enemies, just like when we're talking about like bow like as a weapon, not just outside of Genshin, right? Anyways, moving on. So I feel another character that could be nice with this would probably be Child, especially if you're trying to, you know, crit fish, right? Because you know, the damage per screenshot people, again, the crit damage is very, very high over here, right? And you know, it's just probably not going to be as good, right, overall in comparison to like Polar Star, right? But still, you know, could potentially be his you know, second best option outside of that, right? I just feel like Polar Star just has a bit more consistency in terms of damage, right, for Child, and probably easier to optimize, you know, his substats and stuff, or not substats, his artifacts and such, right? So yeah, you also get the extra elemental burst damage, all that stuff. Like like Polar Star's really, really freaking good for Child. But again, if you have Child, you don't have Polar Star, you're trying to pull for whatever, and got Aqua Simulacra, could be a, you know, definitely a decent option for Child, right? Again, especially if you want to get those big crit damage, you know, screenshots. anyways, moving on. Another one, low key could be pretty nice with the Aqua Simulacra. Aloy. I know folks probably don't care, but for the, you know, 5, you know, Aloy fans out there, you know what? That's not fair. I'm sure there's a lot of Horizon Zero Dawn, you know, players. I've heard it's a good game. I actually really want to play it. I just haven't had the chance yet. But Aloy could definitely be nice with this, right? Especially if you're running like a freeze sort of, you know, running her in a freeze team. Most of the time, she's really just there for that, you know, Q nuke, and then for the energy particles that she generates for your for your cryo teams, right? Generally. But you know, again, you do have that nuke aspect of her with her Q, and throw that in there. It could definitely be nice. I'm not sure if it's going to be her best bow, and also you do have to be close to your opponents, right, for the extra buff. So yeah, but in general, it should definitely be a really nice bow for Aloy, mainly for her, you know, big nuke, right? So low key could definitely be a nice bow for our friend Aloy over here. And then one more would probably be Fischl, right? Fischl, again, Polar Star probably would be better, right? Polar Star probably would be better, but Aqua Simulacra should still be very good, because you know, again, just the straight up the good crit damage over here, right? And the extra 20% damage dealt, which again could also take effect when the character is off field. So especially for, you know, you're just quick swapping with Fischl, come in, throw an Oz, get out of there, right? You know, never appear again until Oz disappears. So that could definitely be a nice option for Fischl as well. It's just, again, probably Polar Star is going to be a bit better, but yeah, again, same situation as a lot of the other you know, characters like Child or whatever, right? So anyways, moving on. All right, moving on. Amber, it's not going to be the best option for Amber, let's be real. Again, even if you are like running DPS Amber, right? For some reason, I mean, you know, good for you, I guess, right? But you know, most time you are running more of like a charged attack sort of Amber if you are running DPS Amber. So again, stuff like Ammo Bow is probably just gonna be better, right? But outside of that, I guess, sure, maybe. But again, DPS Amber isn't really what most people run Amber as, right? Amber's obviously mostly a support, and if you're running support Amber, you know, LG, Fav Sack, right? Probably just gonna be better, right? There's probably just gonna be better on Amber, right? So like, yeah, it's not useful for Amber's main purpose. It's also not the best option for her secondary purpose if you want to play that playstyle, right? So yeah, I would say, yeah, Amber's in the much better options category, right? Like, sure, if you really want to, I guess, but most of the time you probably won't be, right? Moving on. Diona. Also probably, oh look, Diona, here's the thing with Diona. Here's the funny thing with Diona, right? You think, there's no way, right? Diona probably would be in the Goro category, because like, what does Aqua Simulacra, right, do for Diona at all? You're right, it doesn't really do much for Diona, right? Because Diona, again, most times you want to use Sack Bow, right, for the really nice particle regens. If not, like, you know, Phonius, Warbow. Again, being a support bow characters is just Sack Bow, Fav Bow, maybe LG, right? Maybe for Descent Hunt, I don't know, right? That's what generally you're going for with support bow characters. But Diona heals scaling on HP, so you get that extra 16% HP buff. So it's not as completely useless as Goro, I guess, but again, you're also not really going to be using it, right? A lot of times. Moving on, Sarah. Sarah. Here's the thing with Sarah, right? Is there things Sarah could use from this bow? Yes. But does the main thing Sarah want, does this bow have? No, not at all, because the main thing Sarah wants is a high base attack. And again, Aqua Simulacra trades off the higher base attack for a higher crit damage, which again, very, very good for main damage. It's not really useful for Sara because Sara wants as much base attack as possible, right, to get higher percentages on her team buffs, right, or I guess single target buffs for your other teammates or herself, I guess, for her buffs, right? But she could also use the crit damage and damage dealt increase for her own ult, I guess. So again, it's not completely as useless as Goro. Not completely useless as Goro, but there are much better options. And again, there's just straight up better 4-star options, right? There's better 4-star. There's not even like better. Obviously, there's much better 5-star options, right? You know, you got your where is it? You got your Skyward Harp here, right, with the highest base attack for the bows, and then like 4 stars like Moon's Moon, whatever, right? Sacrificial bow, obviously like a very, very, very good option for Sara for multiple reasons, right? Not just the very high attack, the energy recharge, you know, or higher attack, right? Substat, right? Even like Favonia's bow, maybe again doesn't have that high of an attack stat, but at least you get the energy recharge, I guess, a bit. But yeah, stuff like Black Cliff, right? Ally Hunter, just all these, the higher attack stat bows, and there's multiple 4-star ones. So I genuinely cannot recommend Aqua Simulacra for Sara, unless you're doing DPSR for some reason, right? Again, it does help her burst damage a bit. Right? So it's not completely useless like it is on Goro, but not very useful. And last one, Venti. Venti, again, for the most part, right? Venti, you're there to be a a Nemo support, right? You want to get your swirls in, your elemental mastery stuff going, right? So again, Venti's just all that, the LG stuff, stringless, right? You want stuff like that, right? That actually has that could help you with dealing more damage off of elemental mastery and stuff, right? So it's you could use it on Venti. It's not unusable, right? And it's definitely better than using a Hunter's Bow. A lot better than using Hunter's Bow. But again, it's not very useful for Venti's main use. Again, if you are running like DPS Venti, if you got like a C6 Venti going around, pulling the strings, the DPS Venti, MS Pope would probably still be better, but I don't actually know. Forgive me, I don't know too much about DPS Venti meta, but I'm assuming it probably would be an okay option for DPS Venti, but not that much. Right, otherwise for again his main functions as this like crowd control, off field elemental mastery, damage dealer sort of guy, right? So yeah, anyways, that's me on this one, I guess. Hope you all enjoyed it. It is another one of those scenarios, or one of those weapons where like I feel like the only best in slot user is the main unit to use it, but again, at least it's not like a donut scenario, right, where like literally there's like one use for the donut, one unit that uses, and it's not even like the unit's main function for the most part, right, being Kokomi, and like not even almost, I don't think a single Catalyst user in the game really uses it, right? But maybe, I don't know. No one uses the donut, right? It is definitely better than donut. I feel it's kind of in the Haran / Kagura Verity sort of category of weapons, right? Where it's definitely the best option for the main user, right? And could also be solid for some other users, right? Although I guess you could argue Haran versus Primer J Cut or whatever, right? But yeah, it's definitely solid for a lot of other damage healers, right? And it's just probably not their like best weapon, but it's probably their second or third best weapon, right? And yeah, there it is, I guess. So anyways, that's right. This one. I hope you all enjoyed. Guys, think in the comments down below. Like, enjoyed this video, so my channel for some more Genshin Impact content. I'm personally wondering, I don't know, I'm not sure if I want to pull for it or not. I'm 50-50 on it right now a bit. I got scared by that last weapon banner, man. I got scared. So have fun, folks. Good luck. If you guys are pulling for anything else, you guys in the next one then.